Obviously, the biggest deal today was the Harden for Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and
Two
two
firsts.
first-round
Yeah.
picks. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, I thought the Nets kind of cleaned up on that deal because the way that Harden was acting recently, his status was more or less about the same as Ben Simmons, except for the only difference was Harden was still going to show up and play, some games, but just give zero effort and be terrible, which is basically what he did at the end of his Houston tenure too. Because he has, I mean, if the All-Star draft today was any indication, nobody likes him. He is clearly like one of the most unprofessional players in the entire NBA if he feels like he's not getting his way. But I thought the Nets honestly cleaned up by getting Curry out of that deal too. I thought they really managed to make something happen there. Plus the 2 first-round picks. Like, I hate to say it, the Nets look pretty damn good right now. So if I'm giving out a winner on that trade, I'm going Nets.
I think it was a win-win. I mean, when was the last time in league history you had two, maybe most people wouldn't put Ben Simmons in this category, but I'll say two mega stars who essentially refused to play for their teams and both wanted to play for the other one's team and then got dealt for each other. That is the definition of a win-win that they both got off those guys. Because from Philly's perspective, like on court, they're just replacing Seth Curry with James Harden. Like that's I don't care how you frame it. That's a win. I mean, Harden's still like 10 games removed from back-to-back 30-point triple doubles. Sure, he's not at his apex, but he is still an incredible talent when he wants to be. He is still far and away the best player Joel Embiid has ever played with. Philly has looked amazing, even with their relatively limited supporting cast. I'm curious to see how Harden disrupts chemistry. I don't think his game matches up exceptionally well with Joel Embiid, but Harden, for all of his faults off the court, whatever you want to say about him, the guy is a basketball genius. I think if he so chooses, he can mold his game in such a way that him and Embiid work extremely well together. And to your point, it's exactly what the Nets need. That injection of athleticism, of defense, another fantastic shooter, and Seth Curry, who gives you a similar option to Patty Mills. Now you get 48 minutes of that type of shooting. Curry even provides a little bit more playmaking. So I think it's great for the Nets on the contingency that Kyrie Irving can find a way to play every game in this postseason, which is probably on the shoulders of New York Mayor Eric Adams, who is a bit of a wild card, to put it generously. I won't go further on that topic, but we will see how that ultimately turns out. I think if Kyrie doesn't play every playoff game, that things get a little worrisome from Brooklyn. Like there's a bit of a shortage of creativity there, and the luxury of having Harden was you would always have two. I mean, not just all NBA, like all time creators on the floor. Now those games without Kyrie, I think, look a little bit iffy, and all of a sudden you're relying a lot on a guy in Ben Simmons who the last time we saw him in the playoffs, he was refusing to take open dunks. So I'm slightly less bullish than you are, Alex, but this Nets team at full strength, like I see the vision, and those three guys, Simmons, Kyrie, and Durant, like just looking at it from Simmons' perspective, you couldn't build a better team around Ben Simmons. This is his dream. He doesn't have to do any of the stuff he doesn't like to do. He gets to do everything he does like to do. So I'm excited for him. I'm actually a Ben Simmons fan. I hope it turns out well. Not that I hope Brooklyn wins the title, but I hope Ben Simmons gets a little redemption. And I'm interested to see those two teams meet in the playoffs and just have an absolute bloodbath.
That would be really fun. Definitely going to be one of the most fun storyline series in maybe NBA history, if / when that happens. So that'll be fun to see. First round, second round, wherever it ends up, should be pretty cool.